It was a freezing winter evening, and Maria's thin coat did little to shield her from the biting cold. She hurried down the street, clutching her daughter's school books tightly against her chest. Life had not been kind to her. As a single mother, she worked double shifts at a local diner, barely making ends meet. She was exhausted, hungry, and worried about how she would pay next month's rent. Yet, in the midst of her struggles, Maria still carried a quiet strength that kept her going, and her love for her little girl, Emily. As she walked past a nearly empty park, she noticed a man collapse on the ground. His hand clutched at his chest, his face contorted in pain. For a split second, Maria froze. She could have kept walking, could have told herself she had her own problems to worry about. But something deep inside her wouldn't allow it. She dropped the books and ran to him. "Sir, can you hear me?" she cried, kneeling beside him. His breathing was shallow, his lips pale. With trembling hands, she dialed emergency services and began performing CPR, remembering the basic training she had once received at a community workshop. Every second felt like an eternity, but she refused to give up. By the time the ambulance arrived, the man's pulse had stabilized. Paramedics took over, and Maria stepped back, shaking with relief. She didn't even realize her knees were scraped from the pavement or that her hands were numb from the cold. All she cared about was that he was alive. She never asked for his name. She didn't expect anything in return. She simply gathered Emily's books and continued her walk home, as though nothing extraordinary had happened. But for Richard Lawson, nothing would ever be the same again. Richard was not just any man, he was the CEO of a large corporation, a man used to power, wealth, and respect. Yet, in that vulnerable moment, it wasn't his money or influence that saved him. It was the selfless courage of a woman he didn't even know. Days later, when Richard regained his strength, he was determined to find her. He asked the hospital staff, but they only knew her first name. For weeks, he searched the city, following every small lead until one fateful afternoon when he stepped into a small diner. There she was, Maria, balancing plates in one hand and offering a tired smile to a table of customers. He approached her gently. "You saved my life," he said softly. Maria blinked, startled. She remembered his face, but she never imagined he would seek her out. "I'm just glad you're okay," she replied. Anyone would have done the same. But Richard knew better. Not everyone would have stopped that night. And not everyone would have risked so much for a stranger. Over time, Richard began visiting the diner often. At first, Maria thought it was just his way of showing gratitude, but slowly, she realized he was genuinely interested in her. He listened to her stories, asked about Emily, and treated her with a kindness that felt rare. Yet, Maria struggled with doubt. She was a poor single mom working paycheck to paycheck. He was a wealthy CEO with everything at his fingertips. Their worlds were too different. She feared people would whisper behind their backs or that his family and colleagues would never accept her. Richard, too, faced challenges. His board of directors warned him that being seen with a waitress might damage his reputation. Some of his so-called friends questioned why he was wasting time with someone beneath him. But he had already made up his mind. He had seen something in Maria that no amount of money could buy: genuine compassion, strength, and humility. One evening, when Maria's rent notice threatened eviction, Richard offered to help. She refused, pride burning in her chest. "I don't want your money," she said firmly. "I don't want to be another charity case." Richard looked into her eyes and replied, "Maria, I'm not offering because I pity you. I'm offering because I care about you and Emily. Because I want to be here for you, and not just today, but always." Those words broke down the walls she had built around her heart. For the first time in years, Maria allowed herself to dream of a future where she wasn't struggling alone. Their relationship blossomed slowly, built on trust, respect, and shared struggles. Richard spent time with Emily, helping with homework, attending school plays, and showing her the fatherly love she had been missing. Maria, in turn, reminded Richard of life's simple joys of sharing meals at the kitchen table, laughing over small moments, and cherishing love over luxury. They both faced criticism, doubts, and hardships, but they stood firm. What began as an act of kindness on a cold winter night grew into something neither of them expected, a love story that crossed all boundaries. In the end, Maria learned that love doesn't measure wealth or status, it measures the heart. And Richard discovered that the greatest fortune he could ever possess wasn't in boardrooms or bank accounts, but in the arms of the woman who saved his life and the child who gave him a reason to live better. Their story became a reminder that sometimes, the most unexpected encounters can change everything. A poor single mom who thought she had nothing to offer ended up giving the richest gift of all: a love, family, and hope for tomorrow.